trip to my local Dollarama, separate the layers, cut the napkin so that you have enough to cover the body of the jar. Now I'm using some clear glue mixed with a tiny amount of water, paint it onto the side of the glass jar. Then lay down the paper napkin and then using a piece of scrunched up plastic wrap, use that to pat down the napkin and eliminate any wrinkle size, and cut out the piece of napkin, stick it to the bottom of the jar in the same way. Using the same process, cut out a circle for the top and a little strip for the edge and stick it in place. When it was dry, I decided to give it 2 coats of a gloss varnish. I have taken a battery-operated puck light and stuck it into the lid of the glass jar. And here are my finished chinoiserie jars. Don't they look great? I'm going to stick these grasses and weeds to this glass. Cut off these extra bits on the bottom. Now I'm going to stick the tissue paper to the vase. I'm going to use a glue stick and then just rolling it, pulling it tight on this side, some more glue down and gently stick that in place too. I'm going to go around and just trim and just see how pretty these are. Really, really simple project to do.
Headed down to a local Dollar Tree to grab some rope, some clear bottles, and some cool little lights. Just take the hook off the top of the light. Next, we're going to take the bulb off. Next, we need to take the actual light mechanism and pop it out. What we need to do is paint this cover. Now on the bottle, we have a cork here. We can go ahead and just remove that. Next, I grabbed off of Amazon a bottle cutter. Put the bottle on the rollers and you go ahead and start turning it. What you want to do is hear this noise. That means you're cutting right through the bottle, but it won't cut all the way through. I'm going to show you a little cut line on there. Stick the bottle in the boiling water for a good 30 seconds. Once you got it in there and it's heated up, immediately go ahead and put it in the icy cold water. It's going to separate along the score line, and look at that. Perfect. Takes off the bottom and you got a nice flat smooth line. Put the lights back through our painted cover and clip it back on. Take some E6000 glue and place it around the edge. Take some hot glue and put it in the areas I didn't put the E6000 on. That's going to hold the cover in place while the glue is drying. We're going to stick the lights inside the bottle, set the cover on top, then we're going to take that rope, stick some hot glue on the neck of the bottle, let that hold, and then we're going to start wrapping it all the way around the neck. And then take this extra twine, we're going to put it through the hook. I made 3 of these and we put them up, and it made a perfect summer afternoon.
First, we're going to repurpose a 1-gallon glass pickle jar, and then we have some decorative nautical rope. I'm measuring out vertical strips. Now, once I get all of my strips cut, I'm going to start using my glue gun to attach them on the side of the jar. And all I'm doing is I'm evenly spacing these out, and then I'll go in the middle of those sections and put a piece of rope, and then I'll do that, continue on until all 8. And I'm just going to start somewhere and kind of glue in a few places as I'm wrapping around, and then I'll glue the other 2, and it end up being a stack of 3. Just to give it a finished look. It would look good staged and styled for many different seasons.
I picked up a couple of these dollar store solar lights, and I'm going to take them apart. So I'm going to cover the light bulb on the bottom, and then I'm going to cover the solar panel on top, and then use a craft knife to cut around it so you get perfectly straight lines. So I'm going to untwist this screw and put that aside. I'm taking them outside, and I am adding a couple coats of a matte black spray paint. Make sure they're fully dry to the touch, and now we can assemble. So first we want to remove the painter's tape so that these solar lights work. On the clear plastic part, there are 2 little clips that help attach it to the top. And I'm just going to take some floral wire and wrap it around each one of those clips. Wrap it nice and tight so it hugs the plastic closely. And then I'm able to screw the black part back on top, and the wire is still going to hang out either side. I picked this chain up at the craft store. It is actually in the jewelry section. I'm going to thread the chain through the screw and tighten it about halfway. So I'm just going to use my floral wire and wrap it around that hoop. I want to make sure it's centered. Now I can put this middle hoop, the smaller hoop, back inside the larger one. I can tighten this screw and it should hold together really well with tension. I made a couple of these dollar store solar light pendants to hang on my deck.
I sourced a couple things from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to be using the Rust-Oleum milk paint. We are going to add our hot glue, put it into the corner. So we're going to do this in all 4 corners. So once that kind of sets, we're going to flip it over and do the other side. We are going to be taking our smaller pieces And we're gonna be creating an X shape. And then I'm gonna come in with my hot glue gun. We are going to glue these together, painting it the same color as we did the other pieces. We are going to hot glue. All right, so we're gonna let this dry here for a moment. And that's where this comes into place. Just need this piece. We're gonna clip off this piece. We're gonna paint it. So now that this is all glued and dried, I'm gonna take a little bit of hot glue and I'm gonna put it in the hole. Now that we've attached the tumbling tower pieces, so I can go over the edges. And here's the finished product of my chic distressed farmhouse lantern. I really love how it came together.
Run on over to the Dollar Tree and grab one of these blue baskets. What can you do if you don't have enough cabinet space? Grabbed a ruler and I'm marking where exactly I want each of these bins to go on my wall. Now for stability, you can choose exactly how you'd like to adhere these baskets to your wall, adding 2 screws to each basket or possibly 4. Now that all the baskets are up, it's time to load them up. While I was at the dollar store, I grabbed one of these over the cabinet door hangers and they hook nicely into the holes onto the baskets. For this hack, you're going to need some hooks. I'm going to grab some bins that I found at the dollar store and I'm going to hook them onto the hook. So now I can separate out my darks from my whites. I'm going to take an over the door hanging rack and I'm going to hook it over the top of my door. This is perfect for ironing boards. I'm going to grab my iron and I'm also going to hook it onto the over the door hanging rack. And it doesn't take any cabinet or counter space or shelf space.
We're going to quickly sweep the floor and we're going to sand the floor with some 220 sandpaper. We're going to clean the floor with TSP, trisodium phosphate. Okay, I've got my Wiseal stain eliminating primer. I'm using a dense foam roller so I give a real smooth finish. Okay, we let our primer dry overnight. We're ready for our base coats. We're going to be applying 2 coats of Wiseal 1 Hour Enamel Antique Villa, and now I'm going to mask off the baseboards. I'm going to use a little spray adhesive on this stencil. Center your stencil on the tile. Because my tile floor has a slight texture to it, I'm choosing to use a brush. It's going to give me a tighter edge than using a roller. It's time to pull the masking tape, do a few touch-ups, and apply 3 coats of top coat to protect this beautiful floor. I'll be using Wise Owl 1 Hour Enamel Clear Satin as my top coat. Didn't this tile floor makeover turn out great?
I'm not a fan of doing laundry, and when it comes to folding clean clothing, there's not enough room in my laundry room. I began by cutting 1 by 12-inch pine to make the storage cabinet. I made the outside box first. I used a Craig jig to make pocket holes to join my pieces together. This, along with wood glue, would keep everything in place. I measured for my shelves, marking and cutting them to fit, and screwed them in place. Now that the cabinet was made, it was time to make the table. I used 1/2-inch MDF, which I measured and cut to size. I attached a piece of 1 by 2 to the bottom of the MDF with glue and brads. I also made the legs for the table out of 1 by 2s. I painted the entire cabinet gray using paint from another project. For the back of the table, I used chalkboard paint and applied 2 coats. When it was dry, I flipped the table over and applied wallpaper to the other side. This would be my tabletop. To attach the table to the cabinet, I used a piano hinge. I screwed it to the wallpaper side of the tabletop and the bottom front of the cabinet. I used another hinge and attached it to the top of the blackboard side and to the top of the legs. For the back of the cabinet, I attached a 1/4-inch piece of plywood. The cabinet was very heavy, so I used a French cleat as my hanger. There are 2 pieces, and 1 screws into the back of the cabinet, and then 1 screwed into the wall. Where I wanted to place the cabinet, there were no studs available, so I drilled holes and put in plastic anchors. To keep the table attached to the cabinet, I fastened a heavy-duty magnet to the front. Now I have a place to fold my clothing, extra storage, and a chalkboard to write notes. It's a win-win.
I made a trip to my local dollar store. Taking a terracotta pot, I draw a very random shape. Taking the clear glue, I pour some onto the side of the pot, picking up some of the blue gravel and pat it down. I then put some of the silver glitter glue around the edge, and here is my geode terracotta pot.
To begin, I started with an ordinary ceramic pot, and then you're going to wrap your entire pot. You'll need some craft type paper. You just rip it up in pieces. You'll pull out your Mod Podge. You'll cover everything except for the top. You're kind of layering and overlapping your pieces. Grab a fabric of your choice. I just chose a natural muslin type. This is just a traditional braid. Wrapping this around until you come back around to the other side. And you're going to start the second layer. Snip that off, pull back that saran wrap on the top, and get your pot to pop out. And now I have this braided, beautiful fabric pot.
I took this terracotta pot and then I placed a couple of tiles inside the bag. I took a hammer and I pounded onto the tiles and I began to glue them onto the pot. So once I did around the circumference of the pot, the base, I filled any little holes with smaller tile pieces. And then I came in with this pre-mixed grout. I scraped it onto the entire pot and I'm going to wipe off the grout, and then this is my finished product here.
Little bit of water, and then add just a small amount of white paint. Stir that up, and I'm gonna dip this rag and just start rubbing it on the pot. So I have a small plastic disposable pot here, and I've got some stones and fill up that plastic pot in the middle. Then to top it off, I'm just gonna add a little bit of gravel with soil. I'm just taking a selection of nice faux flowers. I'm gonna add a tall battery-powered votive. Whitewash a pot and create a spring planter.
I am going to take this plain terracotta pot. I'm going to make sure that I have my stencil nice and flat, dry decks, spackling putty, and I'm just going to smooth it out across my stencil. Then I'm going to remove the stencil while the putty is still dry. Then I have this other nice stencil that I'm just going to do along the top. Then I'm going to come in with this silk paint and I'm going to paint it over top of my entire pot. I'm going to take this patio outdoor paint, add in just a little bit of ground coffee, mix that in, dry brush it over the raised areas of the pot. I'm going to blend in that black a little bit. And this is my finished pot here.
And grab some planters right off the shelf, some primer, and some textured finish. We're gonna go with this square base. So we're gonna put some glue here right around the edges. And I'm just gonna wipe it around the edge just like this. Put it right on top. This waterproof container right here, flip it over. I can just take the glue now and just put it all inside here. Go ahead and take our pot, put it right inside there. We're gonna go ahead and put some glue right on top. Wanna make sure that we get it just centered perfectly. And I wanna put on a good coat of primer. I went with an off-white cream color, get every square inch. Look at how good that looks right at your front door.
going to go ahead and give them a quick sanding. Now it's time to paint. I'm going to add the contact paper to the handles. I'm going to cut a piece large enough to cover the entire top. And then I'm going to use this utility knife to trim out the middle. I'm going to lay down a smaller piece of contact paper. I want to add some cute little labels. I'm thrilled that I no longer have to look at the supplies in these drawers. Or grab one of these inexpensive plastic bins. I want to make sure that the surface is roughed up a bit. I'm going to give it a coat of white paint. I'm using a chip brush, and then I just lightly sweep it across the surface. And I can even create some faux knots with the glaze as well. Now that the paint and glaze are completely dry, I want to fancy up the handles a little bit. I've grabbed some of this thick twine and I'm going to wrap it around each one. I love how pretty this plastic bin looks now. You wouldn't even know it's the same one.
It's time to grab your favorite inexpensive bucket. We got to get those handles off. Flip it over. Just go ahead and set it down there and just mark it with a pencil. Just use your favorite saw. Next, stick them on there. Then you can use some hot glue. Press it against the plastic. So do that to both pieces. So just take your drill and put it right in. Now it's time to put on the wheels. We're going to mark it and we're going to drill it. Take that hot glue and put the leg on. I grab this twine, just stick it right on there. Just go ahead and set it all the way around. A little bit of your inexpensive fabric, worked my way down with that hot glue and kept folding it over. It's going to cover all that plastic. Get that glue right on that and just mark it down. Look at this. This is going to be a great container.
I started at Dollar Tree, the storage containers. 2-pack of placemats, glued them to the fronts of the fabric square containers. Evenly put on the one side and then tucked the two ends on each side. I put the front down with the hot glue like I did on the cloth cube, pulled the sides down around to each side. So I hope this inspires you to try your hand at some upcycling storage containers.
Scrunch the paper a little. You can add any colours together, and then I'm going to shake it over my paper. Now I'm going to take my spray and I'm going to soak the whole sheet. So now I'm actually going to speed up the drying process with my hairdryer and stick this on the whole piece. Clear shelf liner. Press that down. Pull the backing paper away. Put some glue on the front of this. I'm going to place my piece of tissue, and here is my finished drawer.